All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for today's webinar about how to build custom GPTs for your post-sale organization, whether you lead or work in a customer success team, a professional services or implementation team, or support team. I'm super excited to tell you today and give you some tips on how you can create a very practical application that you can start using with your teams today. It doesn't require any involvement from your IT or tech organization. It just requires an hour or two of you to pull together some of the materials. And whether you use ChatGPT internally, whether you use Microsoft Copilot, Google's Gemini, or Claude from Anthropic, you can apply these same principles. So I hope that you'll find this very, very practical and that in some ways your mind will be blown with how much value you can get out of this. Thanks so much for being here today. My name is Rod Cherkas. For the past 5 years, I've been a consultant working with post-sale organizations to help them improve retention rates, to drive operational improvements, to drive expansion in their businesses. I've been a CCO, I've been a post-sale executive, like many of you, working at companies like Gainsight, Marketo, RingCentral, and Intuit. And so my goal today, and my goal for my other webinars that you may have attended, has been to make it very practical on how you can leverage AI in your business today with your teams in a way that drives value for your company and in a way that makes you increasingly productive and improves the experience for your customers. So let's get started. This will be available online, so you can follow up and listen to it. I'm also going to be sending out both the recording as well as some of the documentation and prompts that we're going to be working through, so you'll be able to easily follow the instructions and build this out for your business. So I wanted to just kind of reflect a couple of months ago. Everyone was super excited about some of these new capabilities with AI that you could generate sort of graphics and videos. And it was kind of clever that people could create these bobbleheads. So I don't know if you saw online, lots of people were doing that. And that was kind of a fun application. And I tried that out as well. I was actually quite impressed by what it could come back with. But the real value of AI is how you can apply it in your business. And today we're going to be talking about the concept of using these custom AI assistants that are available as part of all of the core AI solutions to actually supercharge you and empower you and your teams. So I create my Rod bot, which has information about my business and uploads from my books and webinars and podcasts and other resources and frameworks. So what we're going to be doing today is showing you how you can build your own Rod bot, basically how you can build a companion for your team, for your CS team or implementation or professional services team, regardless of what you're doing. So I hope you'll be excited about that. We're going to very quickly go through a framework that I've developed called the AI Power Framework, so that as you're thinking about how to apply AI, if you're using it practically, there's a number of different ways you can apply it for yourself and in your business. And I want to help you think through how you can do that. Then we're going to go through a process where I'll show you, and we're actually going to create a custom AI assistant. Again, whether you use ChatGPT, whether you use Microsoft Copilot, whether you use Gemini, it's called Gem in Gemini, it's called an agent in Copilot, and it's called a GPT in OpenAI's ChatGPT. We'll go through that process. And regardless of what solution you have, I'll show you exactly where that is in your product. Then we're going to go through a real world example. We're going to go through a scenario where we'll sort of pretend that we are the CS team at Gong. I assume that you're familiar with Gong, and so we'll use that as an example how you can picture creating this GPT that might be the Google CS Companion and how you can apply that in your business. And we'll give some tips about getting started with AI. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A link as part of the webinar. We're going to get to them at the end, so I'm looking forward to that discussion. And please follow me on LinkedIn for updates and share information about how you're able to apply it. I'd love to start with a poll to get a little bit of a sense of how everybody is, where you're kind of starting. Have you created a custom GPT or an agent in Copilot or a gem in Gemini or a project? So if you could respond to that, I would love to see where we're at. The great thing is that in just about every client that I've worked with, you have some type of enterprise version of Microsoft Copilot or Gemini from Google or ChatGPT. So everything we're going to do today, you should be able to do in the next couple of hours or by yourself over the next couple of days. So I'm really excited to make this pretty practical. All right, so what we're hearing is that I'm going to give it just a second, but it looks like folks have responded. Going to end the poll and kind of share the results. And so you'll see about 17%, a little bit less than 20% have either built one and used it. Another 20% have built one and kind of understand how it works. And most of you, about two-thirds, have maybe heard of them but haven't done anything with it. And that's why you're here today. So I'm excited to give you this set of tips and tools that you'll be able to bring back to your business. All right. One of the challenges that I've seen, so I speak with a lot of leaders and CS organizations about how they're applying AI. And one of the things that I think is challenging is there's a lot of noise about it. There's clearly a lot of hype. But when I talk to post-sale leaders, there's not a ton of folks that are getting a lot of value out of it yet. I encourage folks to try the AI tools that are part of their existing applications, maybe a CS platform or a support platform that you're using and work on it. But there hasn't been kind of this breakout capability that everybody's getting into. Some of them are kind of costly, they're unproven. I love the fact that there's so much innovation, but I'm really hoping to see teams pick up and apply it in their business in a way that isn't just sort of summarizing meeting notes, doing some basic customer preparation before you talk to somebody and some basic research. So I'd encourage you to be thinking about how we can apply what we're learning today into very specific examples of your business, and I'll give you some of those examples. I know there's a lot of work going on. I love doing training for AI with my organizations. The other thing is people are sort of nervous and sometimes even ashamed of using AI, and I would really encourage you not to feel that way. This is an additive to you, and it can make you more productive. It can make you smarter. It can make your work go faster. So think about it as a way to amplify your impact. This framework that I've developed around AI focuses on a couple of different ways that you can leverage it in your organization. And I've created this acronym POWER. So one is the ability to use it as a way to improve your own leadership skills. Things like using ChatGPT or a GPT like we're talking about today as a thought partner to help you make better decisions, help you develop your strategies. Another set of things that AI can do is to help you drive better outcomes. When you're working with your customers, use deep research to help be better prepared for your discussions or summarizing your customer accounts. Third, it can be a way to improve your own personal productivity, saving time doing things like summarizing meetings or developing next steps. You can also use it, and I'll show you today, how you can build out like onboarding plans for your customers, new hire onboarding plans, develop email nurtures for your customers that may be new or may have a certain risk. Next is the E is enablement and skill development, how you can use AI to help you get better at the skills that you need. And then lastly, how you can use AI as a way to help you develop stronger and better relationships with your customers and also your team members by being able to draft better emails, more impactful communications, how you effectively communicate or share presentations with your executive team. So lots of different ways that you can apply it. I encourage my clients, and I would encourage you to think about what you can do to learn faster and stay relevant here. Don't be afraid of leveraging AI. Find ways to bring it into your business. Share it with your team members. I have already heard from sort of hiring executives at both companies and also some of the investment firms that own hundreds of portfolio companies and SaaS and other technologies, that being AI fluent is a job requirement now. People are asking about it in the job interviewing process. And so it's something that I feel like you should be up to speed on very consistently. So find ways to help you learn and help your teams. All right, so let's get into it. I also want to step and just mention I'm using the term GPT because that's a capability that exists in ChatGPT to build these custom AI tools. If you and your company are using a product from Microsoft like Copilot, they have a tool called Agents. If you're using Gemini as your AI platform, they have a tool called Gems. And if you're using Anthropic's Claude, they have a tool called Projects. So this capability I'm going to be showing you, I'll be doing it in ChatGPT, but basically each of these other companies have built out exactly similar, basically copied each other tools to do the same exact thing. So I have a couple of screenshots that I can show you what it looks like in those other tools, but you can do the same capability in those other tools. Okay? The concept here of what is a GPT is that it's a private assistant that's built inside the tool that you're using, in this case, ChatGPT, that is trained on your own company's materials. Now, you may have a different part of your organization or your IT team that is building this out at a company level for you, that's bringing in documents and bringing in all of your knowledge articles in Jira. And that is definitely a worthwhile solution. A lot of companies don't have that. And I would also encourage you to think about using this in your own. Just like set it up, try it, see how it works, and then it'll give you ideas for how you can get your central organization to build it out. What's helpful about these custom GPTs is you can control what it knows. Even if you did a general search in something like ChatGPT or Gemini about your company and its products, it would know a surprising amount about it. But what you are going to be doing is uploading some key information that it can source on, and then these solutions kind of fill in the blanks. You also are telling it what type of voice you want in terms of how it speaks your language. You're uploading appropriate documents and playbooks and resources. And then you can prompt it either with questions or give it instructions to help you do very practical things in your business. And this is where the crazy part comes in. I'll show you a number of prompts that once you've uploaded even a relatively small amount of information, you as a individual contributor or a leader or an executive in your post-sale teams can get an incredible amount of value. And so I'd encourage you to try this. It takes just a couple of hours to set up. The other piece here is that it's private. So you're not sharing your content with any of these companies in a way that they use to train their systems, and it is available in your workspace. There are ways to share this with your other colleagues. So what you basically get is, in OpenAI and ChatGPT, you get what I've often described as like a CS companion that you can then use in prompts and ask questions, right? There's a process to go through to create this GPT, and what I'm going to do, by the way, over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to do a couple of screenshots of just showing you what I'm going to be doing, and then we're going to bring up ChatGPT, and we're going to actually do this. So you'll be able to see exactly where to put in information, and as I send the documents to you over the next couple of days, or for folks that are watching this on demand at some point that you can download, you can do this as well in your systems. Right. So in GPT, you're going to click on Explore in ChatGPT here. You're going to click Create a GPT. And then what it will bring up is a blank template that we're going to populate with some information. I'm going to share the information that I would suggest you start with, but you can always feel free to edit the instructions. So there's this concept of like name, description, and instructions. As I mentioned, if your company uses a different tool, it's called something different. So in Microsoft, in Copilot, you would create what's called an agent. So you would click on Create Agent, and it would bring up the same information that you can enter. And in Google Gemini, it's called a gem. But you'll see between all of these, they basically have the same layout where there's a name, description, and instructions. And there's also a place to bring in the content. So the scenario that we're going to go through in just a minute is, let's say you work at Gong, right? The company that makes the call recording software and other AI solutions to help sales and customer success and other teams. And let's say I worked at Gong and I want to create a CS companion. Reason I chose it is because everybody is likely familiar with it, and so you can kind of relate to what it does. And when we do some of these prompts and get the answers back, it will make sense to you. And hopefully you'll go like, oh my gosh, this is pretty amazing. How does it do that? I don't know how it does this, but it is pretty amazing. So the concept here is you lead post-sale functions at Gong, including customer success, implementation, renewals, for example, and you are telling it you want to support thousands of you rely on this information to help drive your business, right? And what we're trying to do is we want to build this custom GPT or the GEM or the Microsoft Copilot agent so it can answer product questions, summarize resources, help your team. Basically, it can do almost anything that you ask it to do. It is kind of crazy here. And you want it to be reliable. You want it to be a strategic thought partner as you're doing your daily work. You want it to be kind of concise. And you want to be able to help leverage these best practices that you can apply like it is your best practice, like everybody is getting up to that same level of consistency, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to create this CS Companion GPT or GEM or agent. We're going to give it a name that defines the identity and purpose so that you can find it and people understand a little bit about what it does. Then we're going to give it some instructions. So you're going to tell it how you want it to act and think and how you want it to reply back to you. So like we've been talking about in my other webinars, you want it to write simple, clear directions, how you want it to respond. And you're basically, I've heard it described, giving it a job description. Hey, this is what I want you to do. And then you're going to upload knowledge. So this is where we're going to pull in the content that it will learn from. And I'll give you a trick in just a minute about how to create that in a way that gets you super started in just a couple of minutes. So you can bring in your company, some company materials. My favorite is to screen scrape your company's website. That's what we're going to be doing today. I'll show you how easy that is. And after you do that, which may take 30 minutes, you can upload it and be ready to go with an amazing amount of information. You can also drop in your playbooks, small number of enablement materials, but the point is you do not need to bring in every piece of content that you've got, right? And so this concept of how do you make this useful? I would start with your company website. This is publicly available. I'll show you what I do to kind of basically screen scrape it and put it into a document. It doesn't even need to be formatted, which is a beautiful part. You just copy and paste it into a document, and then you can upload it. Other things that are often helpful is your product and marketing materials. Maybe you have some data sheets, maybe you have some battle cards, maybe you have your sales enablement materials that other parts of your company. Again, you don't need all of the details here. We are not creating like a support bot that needs to know how to troubleshoot and knows all the details. We're just trying to better understand, your company's offerings and products and use cases and customer examples that your team can leverage. And then these solutions, these LLMs, fill in a ton of the blanks. It's pretty incredible. And then lastly, any playbooks or enablement resources you want, like internal guides, your best practices, your onboarding documents. All right. Doesn't have to be complete. AI can read things that are unformatted, and it also fills in a lot of blanks. So it's pretty amazing. All right. So what we're going to be doing, and I'll show you this, is we're going to basically create something. We're going to call it the Gong CS Companion. It's going to assist CSMs and other post-sale teams. Don't worry about reading all of this. You'll get this in the document over the next day. But I'm basically giving the GPT some instructions on what it's going to do. You want it to provide quick and clear summaries from the company materials, for example. You want to help these team members prepare for meetings, manage renewals, identify opportunities, drive expansion. I'm going to tell it that I'm uploading some documents. So in the knowledge and context, it says that I'm uploading it into this GPT. So from product sheets, website copy, etc., the Gong website, summaries that may be provided by team members. And then you can describe the tone and style that you want or how you want it to respond. So don't worry about the details here, but when you copy and paste it, feel free to make any edits to this. All right. So let me go back and I am going to show a couple of things here. All right. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can screen scrape some information to basically create the content. Right? Well, actually, first, let's create the GPT. Let me move this over so that everyone will be able to see exactly what I'm doing. You will get this information in an email that gets followed up. So we're going to go in ChatGPT, there's a place that you'll be able to click on your GPTs, your Explore, and then we're going to create a GPT. And so we will basically copy this into the name, right? We're going to copy this into the description field. And then I'm going to copy all of those instructions. You can, like I said, write them yourself, or you can start with what I've done here. And we're going to put this into the instruction field. Okay. And then it gives you the opportunity to upload files into this that sources the content. So that's what I'm going to do next is let me show you how we can do that. We're going to create a document that enables us to put this information in. Right? So basically, what I'm going to show you how to do is to create some content to start sourcing the information. So let's say you go to the Gong website. What I'm talking about is basically screen scraping all of the content from your website. So you could just go across the top, I'm going to click on Gong Engage. I'm going to right mouse click and basically copy all of this. Doesn't matter whether it's graphics or copy. It doesn't matter if it is white or not, like white, because the AI fills it out, right? So we'll call it website copy, and then we're going to hit paste, right? It doesn't matter. Don't worry about the formatting, which is the crazy part. The AI figures it out. And even if you can't see it because it's white, doesn't matter. So then you go to the next page. I'll just do this for another one. We'll copy and paste it, all the information here. We'll hit copy and then you'll hit paste. And basically, you're creating content that we can upload, right? Doesn't matter how many pages it is. It doesn't matter if it's well formatted. It doesn't matter if it has graphics. We're just creating this content, right? So you can save this in documents. If it gets too big, like over 100 pages, start another one. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll create a document called like platform and solutions, and then I'll have another one that's called like customers, or if you have something about partners or integrations, I'll create another document. So maybe think about creating, two or three documents. But again, it doesn't matter how big it is and what the size is, right? Then what you get is you basically have all of this content And let me bring back the the Gong Companion here for the for what I'm creating. Bring that back up. Is now I am building out this companion, and I will upload the content here, right? So in this, I would click upload files, and I've created a place where I've downloaded it. And these are the files that would have all of the information from the website. I hit open, and then it will enter the information into this Gong Companion. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing here. Now let me, I'm going to say update, and now I can start using the GPT. Right. This is where it gets really kind of fun because then you can see how you can apply it in your business. Right. So let me give some examples of the prompts that we are going to be doing in the business. All right. Let me bring this over so you can see exactly what we're doing. And these are going to be the examples that you'll have tomorrow. So let me show you how much this, how amazing this is, right? So let's take, these are some of the instructions. Let's take some examples of prompts that you might be able to use, right? And you can basically create anything. You can give it instructions, you can ask it questions, but let's say that you are a new CSM that just joined Gong. Please explain the various solutions that Gong offers, describe the value proposition of each, and who are their target customers. And then one of my favorite things is explain your product in a story because sometimes you're working with a company and you don't necessarily know how the technology works and you want to make it easy to remember. So I'm putting that in, I copy and paste that, and I can drop it in and get a response that's crazy amazing, right? Think about what all that we did was we copied the information from the company's website and it provides a huge amount of value in terms of summarizing it so that you and your teams can apply it immediately. And whether you're a CS organization, whether you're an implementation team, whether you're an education team, it's not as helpful for a support organization at this level of detail, but it can provide, really, really nice overviews. And you'll see some other things that we can do. But basically, it's pulling all of this information in to make it really available and help you understand how to apply it in your business. This is one of my favorite things. Ask. It's a really great prompt. Explain something in a story so that I understand what it does. So let's take another example of what this can do is let's say we are responsible for creating a new hire onboarding program. Let's say you want to, let's say you're new, you could create it for yourself, or if you're a manager or leader, you could create it for your team. But let's say that you want to create a new hire onboarding program for your CSMs and implementation consultants at Gong. You want to create an outline of what should be covered in the first couple of weeks and then make sure the topics covered will enable them to be productive by the end of the first month. So again, what is pretty amazing about this is how it's pulling in all of this content from what you've uploaded. In this case, just from your website. And you can feel free to also bring in other data from your sales organization's materials, from your marketing team, like data sheets, but you can start to do this. So I would encourage you in almost any task that you're doing, think about how you can leverage AI to make it more impactful and potentially creating and using one of these CS companions to help you be able to summarize this quickly. What I do is I have two monitors here, one that is kind of my core work, and then the other that has my Rodbot, which is the equivalent of having sort of a custom thought partner. What you see happening here is that it's going through and giving you a really great summary of what you can do. Think about how much time this could save you, and how you can use it. When I work with my clients and they bring on new team members or they start a new organization, we always go through this process and they're shocked at, in less than an hour of going back and forth, you don't need to take this for 100%, but it gets you from 0 to 80% really pretty quickly. Right? So it goes through this and it gives you this pretty amazing overview of what you might have your team do each of those days for the onboarding. And then a follow-up could be how do you create a detailed agenda for, let's say, day two, right? So let's create a great agenda for what we cover on day two. And day two was this concept of understanding the product suite, for example. So what it can then do is you basically have started with, here's what I'm trying to do. You've created the outline for your onboarding, and now you can ask it about the details. And the point to this is not to say, hey, this is exactly what you should do, but this concept of how you can now use this GPT assistant, this CS companion, to help you do so many different things in a way that gets you from 0 to 70 or 80%. Again, this may not be perfect and ready, but what it does is it gives you a great place to start with. And when you see this, for example, it now gives you an agenda of what you or your enablement team or the individual could cover in each of those periods of time. And if you wanted to go to the next level, you could say, hey, give me a summary between 9:30 and 10:30, provide details about what I would cover in each of those topics. So the next thing I'd like to show you is how you can then apply this when you're working with a particular customer, right? Because now it knows all about Gong, this CS companion about Gong and what your role and what you're trying to do. And then you can bring in the concept of, hey, I'm working with a particular client. And in this case, I'm using a company as the example called VergeSense. So the Gong CSM or implementation consultant is a call with VergeSense. And I always like to say is a real estate is what they do in case there's multiple companies that are called something. In this case, it's a real estate technology software company. And how would I describe the benefit of my solution, in this case, Gong, for this business, given their focus on sales and account management, and help me understand the 5 key value propositions. Now, what you get here is, again, pretty amazing because remember that ChatGPT not only has this focused information on you and your company now, but it also knows a lot about other companies that may have their own websites or information that is available on the internet of how they are sourcing these like billions of pieces of information. Again, I don't know how that all works, but it does. But what you can see here is that when you say, hey, how do I talk about Gong to a company like VergeSense, it knows what VergeSense is, right? So why it matters, it talks about who their buyers are, right? The real estate leaders at a company, people that are thinking about the workplace management and their IT teams, which is exactly what VergeSense does and who their key buyers are. And so when you ask it, hey, describe the value of Gong for these particular customers, they're talking about it in terms that are relevant for their particular use case. So that's pretty amazing of how it can then make this very special and very relevant for the groups that you're working with and for your customers, right? So that's just an example. So another example might be I need to put together a QBR for VergeSense, and you want it to be in their language, and you're wanting to guess, even if you don't know and haven't worked a ton with VergeSense, you want to know is unique values for VergeSense, based on their business that they're likely getting from Gong, right? What insights could I provide that demonstrate that I understand their business? I'm in a great partner. And so again, it just gives you an example of how it ties together the Gong value proposition, what you might have as your company, and then what's relevant for your customers, right? It talks about their target into their industry, their target buyers. It talks about the fact that it's likely a complex sale that has long valuation cycles, and it knows kind of what they do. It says they're talking to facilities and HR. So it gives you ideas about how you can describe your solutions, right? The point is that it ties together what they know about your company and what it knows about your customers. So feel free to just experiment. Let me show one more example for an implementation team, for those of you that might be in your professional services or implementation, how you can create this. An example that might be, create a 90-day success plan that includes key milestones, health indicators, right? So you say, hey, I'm an implementation consultant working with this new customer VerdSense. Um, how do I keep this going? Right? It needs to finish this. Let me stop that. We'll see if it lets me do this now. All right. So now we're thinking about how you could use it as an implementation consultant. Once you build this and you start to experiment, you're going to see that there is almost unlimited potential of how you can use this as a thought partner in your business. I find this amazing. And when I do trainings with my clients and their CS teams or their implementation teams, they're just blown away by what it can do. So, you can basically put together a concept of what you do in each one. So if you're trying to build out an onboarding process for your customers, you can start with this, and you can start with either a particular customer, or you can use it as a way to do this generically for all of your companies, right? So let me stop this, but you kind of get a sense of what it's doing. And then another sort of fan favorite is, let's say I'm that onboarding leader and I want to draft a nurture stream. You could do this to create a nurture stream for customers that are new and you want to introduce them to the product and guide them through the onboarding process. Remember, in this case, you might say not all our customers purchase a package to work with an onboarding consultant. So give me a recommendation about what to include in these 5 emails and why, and then draft the first 2 emails as an example, right? So think about the power and how much time that might save you in getting a start. Again, this is not expecting that when you get an email response back, that it is copy and paste and send. But what I have often seen is that building out an email nurture stream can turn into a 4 to 6 week project in the old days. And now you might be able to get out this stream in a week. How long it takes you to actually create the nurture and the content is pretty short. And then you need to work with your teams to build it into your systems and get it out. The point is that use your creativity to help come up with how you can use it. And then please share these. I would love if you ping me on LinkedIn or send me an instant message about how you've tried this and how you find use for this. Right. So those are just a couple of examples, but I hope they are kind of greasing the wheels for ways that you can use uh, AI and this concept of building a CS companion. You can do this even without needing your IT team, and you can share it with others in your organization. Right? So let's go back to the slides, and we'll wrap up in the next couple of minutes, and then we'll get to some Q&A. All right. So I showed you how to do this, uploading the content for the Gong example. We created the CS Companion. And then I have some favorite prompts in this presentation, but I also include a number in the documents that you can download from my website or that you may get in the email if you're attending this live. So now I'd love to kind of get your feedback about how you feel about this now that you understand this concept of a GPT a little bit better, or same concept in Microsoft Copilot with Agent or Gemini Gem. So let's bring up this poll, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about whether you think you could build this into your organization. Right. I find when I do these trainings with my clients and their teams that they're just blown away, that they get introduced. And frankly, this is how I have learned as well. I've learned this from my clients. I've learned how to apply deep research. I'm always constantly asking peers that I'm working with or meeting or my clients, hey, what are you doing with AI that's making a difference? So I just have this platform to be able to share it back with you. So thank you for sharing with me. It's great. 40% say, oh my God, this seems pretty amazing. Um, so let me share the results with you. 40% say, oh my God, this seems pretty cool. About half of you think it's really interesting. So I'd encourage you to go back and try this out. Again, it doesn't take that much time, and I wouldn't worry about making it complete. You can always upload additional content later. Frankly, I would start just with your website. Your teams have probably done an amazing job of trying to create the information on your website about your products and about how to define them in a way that's easy to understand. And often that's enough for how your teams can communicate it with clients, with your customers, right? So, kind of to recap, you can do this in just a few hours. Sit down and give it a shot. Collect some basic content, even starting by screen scraping your website, if appropriate, and if it's easy to get, collect some of your marketing materials, any data sheets that you have to upload into your GPT or agent or gem. Give those instructions to the tool, tell it what you want to do, how to respond. Feel free to start with my set. I have both the Gong example and then I have a generic example where you basically drop in your company name, and it should be a great start of what we just did. And then experiment. It is actually really fun to see and to watch my clients when I'm doing this with them, and others that I'm doing these trainings for, how their eyes light up and they're like, oh my God, you can see their brain is going like, can I just do this? I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. Just put it in as a prompt. So I encourage you to build it out and let me know how it's working. So what you'll do next is over the next day, for those of you that have registered and are participating in this live webinar, you'll get an email with a link to the recording and a link to the sort of the prompt library and the instructions. If you're watching this on demand at some point, you'll be able to get this from my website. If nothing else, screen scrape the content from your website or similar content, create the companion, and then test it out. And really importantly, I would love to hear how it works for you. Is it surprising? What use cases? What have you found interesting about it? And if appropriate, share what you're learning with others in our community on LinkedIn. Please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn as well, and we'll be able to do that. So with this, I'd love to wrap up our webinar training here. I'd be happy to learn more about how I can provide this type of training in a tailored way to your teams. If you're interested in learning more about my private workshops, I do this with companies that can be as short as an hour. And then if you have additional needs, we can do it for longer to get further into how your teams are using it. But I find that most teams are using AI, even your current tools, in a fairly basic way. And very quickly, we can get everybody up to a level of basic competence that you feel confident that they're being more productive and they're getting better impact in their organization. So if you're interested, please scan this QR code, and I'd be happy to follow up with you. I know that many of you have sales kickoffs or revenue kickoffs in later in the winter, and this may be an interesting topic. I also can do this by video with your team meetings or during any quarterly or ongoing trainings that you have. So let me know if you're interested. I'd be happy to do it. I love doing it. It's super fun. And I promise you that it will get your teams increasingly productive. So with that, this is the same QR code. Please follow me on LinkedIn, sign up for my newsletter. I keep you in touch. And I really appreciate the fact that you spent some time today listening. It demonstrates your interest. And I encourage you to just continue to stay relevant. keep up to date. I know there's a lot of change going on in the AI world. It's hard to keep up to date. Follow me for the most important things and try to bring this into your day to day. I really appreciate your time. And with that, I'd like to go to some Q&A and answer some of your questions. All right, let's take a look. All right. I'll kind of start at the top here. Does the prompt have information to ensure that the GPT only restricts its answers to the content provided and not generate or hallucinate additional information which might not exist? What I have seen is that these systems are getting increasingly better at minimizing or preventing hallucinations. So when you get these answers back, you always need to take a look at it. In our world, when we're providing, general information about our products and solutions, the precision is not critical. And so what I'm seeing is the answers that you get back, if you've uploaded, your website information or other relevant content, can be helpful. A lot of these solutions are also pulling information from the internet more broadly or what they are trained on to supplement the information that you have. For example, like the VergeSense information we just talked about was not uploaded into this particular GPT. It's gathering that from the internet. So you always want to use your sort of your judgment and your expertise to make sure that the information that's shared back is useful. But if it's not, like if you say, hey, give me 5 ideas for communicating the value proposition and 4 of them seem relevant, great. Just don't, mention the fifth one. It's not about sending it automatically. Okay. Next question would be, why do you have to screen scrape the website? Can you not just ask it to refer to gong.io? I have found it more useful to provide the information and get and upload it directly so that the GPT can access it immediately. It knows where to start with in terms of the content. At some point, these solutions have been trained on Gong.io. I think that's one of the sort of the characteristics is all of these LLMs have been sucking information from the general internet to put into their trainings. It's not clear to me. So the answer is like, I don't think so. And I don't have a confident answer of if you just said refer to the website, would it work equally as well? I just find that if you give it that source information and say, hey, start with this, that it almost guarantees that it's going to provide the sort of the most current information and focus on the pieces that you are looking for. I don't think that what it's doing is going to the website, sucking in all that information live, and then replying back to you. Okay. Next question. Is it essential to provide the content from the website in a document, or is there any way to point the GPT to the site? So I think I just answered that. You can try it out and see what answers you get, whether it's helpful. I know that it is, I find it to be increasingly valuable to have it tied to the knowledge that's updated. Yep, another question, the same thing. Can you point it to URL and get it to crawl the content? I don't think it's crawling it immediately. I think what the website enables you to do is to tell it like more clearly what company that you're looking for. Yeah, so there's a number of questions. A lot of them have been about, can you just target it at the website? Um, how would you upload specific customer information from a CRM platform like your MRR, ARR, CRM owner? So this is where you need to get your IT team involved. And there are some solutions out there in the market that you can purchase that can then integrate information from other systems, from your Salesforce or from your CS platform. And um, and this certainly can be done, and it requires a little bit of extra work. It may require some budget to buy tools. So these could be similar of how do you start with something like this and then append other information from Salesforce. You could also go to your IT team with requirements that say, hey, we would like it to be able to do this and integrate data from our CS platform, from our implementation project platform, from Salesforce or your other CRM, and then pull it all together. So that is definitely where the industry is going, so that you have all of this information in one place. What I talked about today is a little bit of a quick and dirty opportunity for you to build out something that you can start with and even experiment with, even if it's just for you personally, to see how it works if you have certain tasks that you need to do, and to build it out before you define the requirements with your IT team. Yeah. Let me see. Let me get another one. Have you thought about doing this for all of your content, LinkedIn posts, articles, and making it available publicly? So that's the concept of what I've done in my Rodbot is I've basically uploaded that. I have not quite figured out how to monetize it and how to scale it. If you know how to do that, you're interested, I'd be happy to learn from you and see how to do it. But I have not yet done that to make it manageable. But that would be basically your strategic thought partner in working as a leader. So I definitely have thought about it, haven't gotten around to building it out. What if it's the same platform using Gemini and asking it to look at things in your email documents, etc.? So this is definitely a capability, and you'll need to try it out. What I start to see is if you give it too much information, like access my whole company's Google Drive or access all of my emails, it starts to bring in information that is not as focused. And I think this is one of the challenges that we're going to see as a like kind of as a community and as companies that are users of this AI is what's the right amount of information to source and start with to be able to get consistent information. What I've seen for most of my clients and for most of the applications that I can think of with my clients is having a relatively narrow set of information that is well written and well communicated and in your company's message is super helpful rather than targeting all of the documents in your system, some of which may be like draft versions of things that got presented or things that weren't quite finalized or that are just sitting there in a document or in a folder somewhere. So this is a little bit of a balance. I'm not entirely sure where that goes. Yes. Tips on future-proofing your work. Love the GPT workflow, but cutting pasting from a website becomes out of date quickly. Having to start from scratch each time, huge time suck. That's true. And I don't disagree with the fact that it could get out of date. The balance of that is how can you learn and apply things quickly in your business without requiring 6 months of budget and building out and potential focus on other parts of the organization. What I often see is that there's a lot of AI work happening at companies, and post-sale leaders and teams may not be able to get the resources they need. Sometimes sales, sometimes products, sometimes you're building it into your products. And so there's a variety of initiatives. And I would say, let's do the things that you can do quickly to start to make impact and experiment versus trying to make things perfect across your whole organization. So let me see if maybe I can take one or two more questions. What's the specific benefit of doing the website scraping? Let's see. Are there anything set up to instruct an agent to avoid hallucinations? You can actually, when you go through the prompt, you can say, hey, when you share information, give me a source. Don't make up stuff. You're just kind of reminding the the GPT or the agent not to make up things. And then you need to take a look at it as an overview before you publish something or before you send it out as an email to make sure that it makes sense to you. All right. Can it include call transcripts from Gong to create a QBR? Yes, you can absolutely do that. So if you have a transcript, you can upload that transcript into where you're doing your chat and have it either summarize it or provides additional information as context into your QBR. So I'd encourage you to try these out. We're at the end of our time. I really appreciate you investing the time today in learning. We'll be getting the materials out to you over the next day or two, and I'd encourage you to try this out. Please follow me on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me messages. If you have any questions or if you want to share stories of how you'd apply it, and if you have other topics that you'd like to see for future webinars, please share that as well. Thank you so much and really appreciate it. And you can get all of my information at rodcherkas.com, where I share lots of resources and templates for running impactful post-sale organizations. Thank you very much and have a good rest of your day.